What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. Today I went ahead and gathered some stories from the Pro Revenge subreddit. I figured you guys would probably really enjoy it. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. Manager insists I do my job properly. Well, I'm happy to comply, sir. In early 2020, I was hired under the title Assistant Manager at a local automotive shop. We mainly sold tires and alloy wheels for passenger vehicles. The company owned several stores, and I reported directly to my manager, who reported to the owner of the company. Shortly after I was hired, I noticed the behavior of the manager was far from professional. He would constantly mock and berate me for being the new guy, and I believe part of this was jealousy and insecurity on his part. I ended up recording more sales under my name within the first few months, and he would also knock off work early and start drinking beer while the rest of us kept working. I remember when he found out I participated in an MMA training session after work, he tried to goad me into a fight for his own amusement. Clearly the guy didn't like me, and I was starting to get the feeling he was going to get me to snap or lose my cool, and as a result, I became even more certain with what happened next. During the few months that I had worked there, I had noticed that our takings for the day and sales records did not match. I would often spend half an hour to an hour trying to figure out where the errors were coming from. And the manager would throw his hands in the air and exclaimed he had no idea how this was happening. This recurring issue seemed to be that our cash takings had been recorded incorrectly. There would sometimes be an excess amount of cash that didn't match up to what was recorded on our software, and other times there would be less. I was, at the time, an accounting student studying towards my bachelor's degree, and I was already suspicious of the cash being out each day. However, given how the manager had been treating me up to this point, I was concerned that any complaint would somehow be twisted and used against me, and boy was I right. Several weeks later, my manager took some time off, and during this time I managed a personal record for in-store sales and also noticed something interesting. The cash was never out at the end of the shift. I reported this directly to the owner of the company, given I was acting as manager during the time. I was expected to report to him every day and explained what had been occurring while the manager was there. In all honesty, I was hopeful the owner would be having a word with the manager about it. However, I was also wary, as I believed once the owner spoke to my manager, the manager will know it was me who reported it. When the manager returned to work, he immediately reproached me with a disgruntled look on his face. "I've spoken with the owner. You tried to blame me for the discrepancies. You should focus on doing your job, and then this wouldn't happen." I was quite taken aback by how angry he was, though I wasn't surprised that he twisted it and tried to place blame on me. Given his reaction, I'm even more suspicious, and he wants me to do my job properly, huh? And this is when the malicious compliance ensued. That same week, I got to work. I started paying attention to what customers were paying when they were dealing with my manager behind his back, and I began examining all the sales transactions and invoices with a fine-tooth comb. As the days rolled by, I started to find evidence of his dishonesty, and when it came to cash sales, my manager was doing the following. Example, he would tell the customer the price is $200 if they pay cash, would discount the price by $50 in the invoicing software, would put the extra cash into the till and record a $150 cash sale. Before we did the cash at the end of the day, he would sneakily pocket the extra cash while no one was around, though he was foolish, as he clearly couldn't remember the exact amount he had swindled, hence why the cash would be up some days or the cash would be down. I ended up taking screenshots of the discounts he had been giving on sales and sent them to the business owner along with a report. A report with a detailed description on my findings, and the report also showed that on the days he wasn't there for the cash count, there was no variance. And when he was there, well, the owner was infuriated. This man had been his entrusted employee for years. The owner was so infuriated, in fact, that he ordered my manager to do a mandatory drug test on the same day he found out, and to no surprise, he failed. Turns out the manager had quite the meth habit, and this was most likely his sole motive for stealing cash, and the owner was beside himself. We operate machinery every day in the store, so the thought of a manager walking around high as a kite wouldn't sit well with any health and safety professional. In fact, it could have landed the owner in serious legal trouble if any accident or injury occurred on his watch. The manager was terminated immediately for violation of his contract and was later taken to court in the owner in an attempt to recover his stolen funds. Safe to say, I was promoted to store manager position shortly after his termination. I think stealing from a business you work at is wrong, but this guy's especially stupid for coming back after being gone, knowing he got reported, the boss has already talked to him, and just continuing to steal this stuff. I guess meth makes you do crazy things, but honestly, once they're onto you, it's probably not a good idea to keep doing it, especially after you told someone to just shut up and do their job. Their job is going to become busting you, bro. You can also avoid all of this by A, never doing meth, and B, just never stealing from where you work. No reason to not have a job, alright? And no reason to do meth. I'm not the vice principal anymore? Okay. So none of the other admin in my district had received our contracts for the coming school year. I was wondering what was going on, but I heard rumors about a pay scale shift, and that was the reason for it. I found out Wednesday what's actually happening. Every assistant principal and vice principal in the district is not getting renewed contract, and their position is being eliminated. And their job is being replaced with a new position that pays a teacher's salary plus a $2,000 stipend. They are also replacing the assistant principals with learning coordinators. Apparently, budget is the given reason, but I've also heard rumors from someone at the district office. Each of us were scheduled to meet with the assistant superintendent Wednesday, and we thought it was about our contracts, and we were correct. When I arrived, the acting superintendent was there with the head of HR, and I was told about the elimination of my position, but not the reason why. I was then given the option for coming back for the upcoming school year. I could either go back into the classroom, I could work in the district office, or I could apply and interview for the new position replacing my job. WTF. I wouldn't care one lick if I was told my position had been completely cut and I needed to go back into the classroom, and I loved the classroom. I miss teaching full time. However, to tell me to apply and interview for a job I already have is bullcrap. We were told to give our district our answer by Friday, and they would draw up contracts or schedule interviews. Wednesday afternoon, I went to see Tony, who's an assistant superintendent and one of the few decent leaders in the school district. I heard from Tony there was an internal shakeup, but he wasn't allowed to talk about it or even give me a hint about what happened. However, one of the assistant supers was being reassigned, aka demoted, to being the principal of my current school. My principal was not coming back due to health reasons, and the superintendent was released from his contract. My school's new learning coordinator position had already been filled. Who filled it? A school counselor from one of the high schools who just happens to be a friend and lackey of the superintendent, that's the principal. So, early this morning, I gave them my answer. I decided I didn't need until Friday to decide, and I tried to make sure I sounded professional, but I made sure my message was getting across by speaking with authority. I went into the acting superintendent's office and told him I thought that laying off a bunch of people so they could hire others to do the same job but pay less was BS. I told him that the way the school district handled certain situations was idiotic, and then gave several examples, and I next told him that he was going to ruin a perfectly good school with an amazing team by putting a lazy, mean, parent-pleasing person as the new principal and letting her put a lackey in as her second in command. I said that she was as useless as a screen door on a submarine and as mean as Dolores Umbridge, and I finished the 3-minute speech by stating that I will work my butt off and finish the school year strong, and I will prep things for the next school year so that the teachers have an easier time. And I also let him know I would never work at or recommend the district to anyone again, and then I left letting him know that I expect an amazing letter of recommendation by the end of the school day Friday afternoon, since I earned it for my service over the last few years. So what am I gonna do now? Well, I called up an old friend Wednesday who's currently a principal at a STEAM charter school that's part of our charter STEM schools, and asked if he had a teaching position available. He's been asking me every year for the past 5 years to come work for him, and he told me he had 3 openings and I could pick any of them. So next year I will be a 6th grade teacher, and I'm very happy about it. I even get to design my curriculum as long as it meets state standards. I could apply elsewhere for admin positions, but I think I need a break from school leadership. I need to love my work again like I used to as a teacher. Yeah, there are and were many challenges, and sometimes I hated going to work, but I love teaching. I feel bad for my current staff because the regime change will hit them hard, but there's nothing I can do about it. I wish I could help them, and the most I could do would be take a teaching position at my current school, but then I would be miserable with them and be helpless to do anything to stop it. So for myself and my daughter, who I love more than anything, I'm making the move to a new school and going back to what I enjoy doing, teaching. I'm even going to bring my daughter to my new school to start next year as a 5th grader. I asked her if she wanted to stay at her current school or go to the school with me, and she wants to go there. She was excited, and she's since visited them several times and loved the technology room and robotics classes and the science labs. Plus, she's friends with some kids there already. As a goodbye to myself, I'm going out this weekend and I'm going to buy some nice paper and scratcher tickets, and I'm going to write short individualized goodbyes to each of my staff members, and at the end I will include the following. I'm giving you scratcher tickets. My hope is that you are as lucky at scratching them as I have been lucky to have worked with you. So that's it. I have to finish my contract, but at the end of June, I'm free, and I'm looking forward to teaching full-time again and having a boss who will let me do my job and not interfere. I don't think I want to work in administration again, but maybe after a few years, I'll decide to work as an assistant principal again. I put together goodbye gifts for all my staff, and I'll be handing them out Friday, as it's their last day with kids. And they have a bunch of goodies that I posted about weeks ago. I think this weekend about how to give the finger one more time to the district office and help the teachers out, even in a small way, so I came up with it Sunday night. My district requires each teacher to attend additional training throughout the year. These are outside of the regular staff development trainings, and they are run by district staff, special education teachers, and admin. The training normally lasts 1 to 3 hours, and the teacher gets a certificate for time spent in training, and each teacher is required to attend 24 of these before the end of the school year. Most teachers take them over the summer if they're offered, so they don't have to take them during the next school year. So yesterday morning before work, I was making copies of the certificates for all the courses I have run here over the past few years. Classroom management strategies, lockdown procedures, social studies, math strategies, reading comprehension, environmental prints. I'm going to fill them out with each of the teacher's name and number of hours, and I'm adding up all the times I ever spoke to the staff about these topics and putting down the hours to correspond to the nearest hour-ish. Wouldn't you know it, each of those topics was 3 to 5 hours in length, and each staff will have exactly 24 hours worth of training. I filled out the dates for the 2022-2023 school year, and I will have attendance sheets with all their names with them marked as being present. I checked with the district, and since I'm still an administrator into the summer, I'm allowed to run these training dates over summer before I leave. Now they can have their summer to themselves and not have to worry about taking classes during the school year. They can if they wish, but 99% of the teachers here hate the mandatory training hours. I hope the staff likes the present. Since Friday, I'm no longer a school administrator, but technically I have another week to work, but I took vacation cause screw 'em. Now I spent the last week packing up, giving aid and comfort to my former staff, and causing problems for the new administrators who are jerks. Besides giving the staff an entire year free from additional training, I wasn't planning on causing more problems, just quietly leave and drive off into the sunset. But apparently I don't deserve a quiet week because the new principal and her teacher on assignment decided to be rude to me, and there was only response to that. I aimed to misbehave. How were they rude to me, you ask? First off, they ordered me to hurry and clean out my office because apparently they wanted to start redecorating it, and I was literally told, get all your stuff out of here ASAP, she wants her office now. I still had a week to work there and actual work to do. Second, the new principal tried to steal my personal chair and my personal office supplies and decorations. The chair was given to me from a friend. I found her wheeling it out of my office and into hers, and my desk supplies and banner on the wall were in a stack on its seat. I told her it's my personal chair and not the district, and she said okay. The very next morning, I found it missing, and she had moved it into her office after I left for the day. Third, I was given a list of tasks to complete by Friday by the teacher of the administration, who is in no way, shape, or form my boss, and these were not my job to do and are in fact the incoming admin's duty to complete. Stuff they were supposed to do, like put together staff packets, schedule next year's stuff, fill out and submit forms, all that stuff. Finally, I was talked down to every single day by the new admin team, and I was spoken to as though I were the hired help and they were the royal bitches. Seriously, I speak to a waitress that messes up my order with 20 times the amount of respect they showed me. They actually tried to get my attention by snapping their fingers at me like that would work. So I decided to do everything as I was told. I was the soldier and I know how to follow orders. I removed everything that was my personal property, including my chairs, decorations, and stress relievers, and fridge from the office, and file cabinets from my office. Yes, I bought government surplus cabinets because I didn't have any, and all my files and former principal's files were in there, and I even bought the folders I used in it. So I took every piece of paper out of my cabinets, removed them from my labeled covers, and stacked them on the floor in a large pile, and there is no order to how they're stacked. I took my chair from the principal's office while she was in a meeting with parents, walked in and rolled it out, and she stopped talking to the parents to ask what I was doing, and I responded I was taking my personal property out ASAP as I was ordered to do. I had an old medium-sized fridge I had placed in the office workroom for staff to store their food in, but it's mine, so I took it. I brought in right out the front door and loaded it into my truck, and even took the new admin's food out and left it on the table. It's my fridge, and I warned the rest of the office staff I was taking it, but forgot to tell admin. Darn. I copied all my digital files over to a flash drive, then deleted everything off my Google Drive, anything I personally created or designed, and copied all my emails too. I informed the staff that if they need time off next year and needed approved to submit the forms this week, and I got several and they're all approved. And I got this idea from someone who messaged me here on Reddit and suggested it, so thanks for the advice. I approved every supply list item the staff submitted and even drove to the district warehouse to pick up some personally, and even approved funds for a second-hand kiln for the art teacher because she had found a good one on Craigslist. I had repaired my desk with bolts and tools from home, so I took the bolts back and the desk is lopsided again, and the closet door was broken when I got there, so I fixed it but put it back as it was when I was hired. The two-way mirror to the detention room was mine. I had gotten it from a friend at another school, and it allowed me to watch the ISS and detention students from my office without them seeing me. Popped it right out and took it home, and now the TOA has a hole in the wall detention kids can look through. I had put together all the lockdown buckets and fire drill bags myself with my own money, and I took all them back. This I felt bad about, but I will give them out to staff at my new school. I put a rush order on all classroom and building repairs and have an approved order to have every classroom repainted. I assembled new staff packets in the new school year binders, but besides the basics of what is required, I have included throughout the binder in random places Dilbert cartoons, famous Harry Potter quotes, the lyrics to Nickelback's How You Remind Me, I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry, All Star by Smash Mouth, and We Built This City by Starship, a map of the area where I marked all the good places to eat lunch off campus, funny Far Side teacher comics, cheesy teacher jokes, the union contact info, crossword Sudoku word searches, a list of educational lawyers, and I also included in the binder the admin Wi-Fi password for them since that signal is stronger for some reason. I went ahead and wrote out the training schedule for next year, and oddly, every Wednesday is listed as free time or work in your classroom. I'm sure they'll change it, but I don't know when they will find out what it says. I had a master list of donators and partners in the community, and it was posted on a whiteboard in my office. I got over 4 dozen businesses and people in my community to help with various things over the years, and spent a lot of my time building my relationships with them and making deals. I took a photo of it and erased the list and took the whiteboard since it was mine. Friday, I flew the LGBT flag instead of the state flag, and I also placed LGBT flags in each classroom in case the staff wanted to display them. Then I got yelled at 3 times. The first time is when I got back to my chair. I was told it was unprofessional just to take it without asking, especially with guests present, and I responded with, yes, it was unprofessional for me to take my chair without asking. The second time was when the teacher assistant found the refrigerator gone and she said something that it was community property, and I said, no, it's my property, and I was told to take all my property from campus. And the third time was when I was in the parking lot leaving and they found the piles of papers. The principal flagged me down and told me to clean it up, and I told her I was off the clock and the district never reimbursed me for the cabinets, so I had to take them with me. I'm expecting a call from HR today asking for my assistance setting everything back up with all my stuff removed and erased, and the admin team has to actually put in some hard work. I'd come in, but at a consultant rate of $75 an hour with a minimum contract of 12 hours. So as some of you know, I left the world of being an administrator a few weeks ago, and I tried to leave behind some nice gifts when I left. I wasn't looking to cause problems my last few weeks, but the new admin team treated me in a way that was unacceptable, so I decided that Malcolm Reynolds had it right when he said, I aim to misbehave. Well, the Tuesday after I left, I received a call from HR and I ignored it, and then left for a road trip with my daughter where we went to San Francisco for a few days into 2 Giants games, and unfortunately they lost both games. While we were on our trip, they called and emailed at my personal email account. My work one was deleted, and I ignored the calls and never opened the emails. My daughter and I went to Disneyland for a few days of fun and returned this Friday, and I checked the voicemails and emails. I was asked, begged, and then ordered to come to the HR for important meetings. It's very important we speak to you as soon as possible, is what they said repeatedly. So yesterday I went into the district office wearing cargo shorts, a shirt I got in Disneyland, and flip-flops. Because I don't work there. I don't have to dress up. When I arrived, I was originally treated like a visiting VIP. The HR manager and her assistant tried to butter me up like a Pillsbury biscuit, and after a few minutes of them trying to make small talk and me then letting them know I had plans to go to lunch in 30 minutes, they got to the point. They wanted me to turn over the things I took with me that, though they belonged to me, were sorely needed at the school. They gave me a list from the new principal, which included, but was not limited to, my chair, seriously, my refrigerator and appliances, my community contacts board, and the people and businesses that I built relationships with and partnerships with, my personally designed forms and worksheets, a two-way mirror, and my lockdown buckets and fire drill bags. They also wanted copies of every record I kept and notes I took on staff and students. The notes taken on the staff were so I could personalize gift for them and have conversations with them on their interests. I said no to all of the requests, and told the ladies that the furniture and appliances were mine that I brought in, and stated the chair was a gift for me from a friend and the new principal can afford to buy her own. I also stated that I left any official school district documents that were there, and anything I took with me and or deleted were my own making and intellectual property, and I also stated that my contacts were developed over the years on my personal time at a personal cost to me. I also stated that everything that I had taken was mine and submitted a list of everything I took. I had submitted the reimbursement forms and was never reimbursed, and I kept my records and pay stubs, and I never saw a red cent from those submissions. They offered to pay me for some of the items and gave me a rough figure of what they could pay to return the fridge, whatever, same thing, forms, buckets, bags, mirror, and contact board. I told them I did not want to hand it over to the new admin team since they treated me poorly. They asked me again and tried to reason that some of the things could be interpreted as school property, and I told them that they were welcome to try and force me to return anything that was legally mine, but I'd be willing to fight it in court. I also told them those 2 new administrators made me uncomfortable, and their treatment of me could be considered making a hostile work environment, especially when they tried to make me do their jobs for them, and then I gave them my lawyer's info. Yeah, this was the definition of pro-revenge. So many stops along the way where it's just like, oh, okay, yep, add that to the list of insane things. Oh, yep, that too. I also love, get all of your personal things out of here ASAP. Wait, hold on. We just wanted you to take the personal things that we didn't want. We want to keep most of your stuff. That's not how stuff works. You don't get to just keep it because you like it. Are you crazy? Especially the chair. Hey, can you give me your chair back? I just really liked it. It was a lot comfier than the one the school district gives out. You're telling me the school district doesn't have nice chairs? Who could have ever seen that coming? School districts not having money isn't something everyone's aware of being a problem. I understand budgets are bad, but when you shove good workers into crappy positions and then, give them crappy bosses that are getting demoted, it just doesn't make sense to me. They were a horrible superintendent, so you're going to make them a principal. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, they were so bad at their other job, let's give them an equally important one. Not literally on the ranking, but you know what I'm saying. If they can't be an assistant superintendent, they probably can't run a school either. Dealing with an entitled neighbor. Just flipping through a few stories and reading about entitled drivers getting their just desserts, and this made me think back to my days as a paramedic. We got a call to a house where there was a bariatric patient who had fallen. The patient was morbidly obese and weighed about 30 stone, and this story really isn't about them. There are many reasons people get to this size, and I've never judged, only helped. The problem here was a really arrogant neighbor we had come across before, and boy, this was a chap who was an absolute judgmental moron. Our patient had a car and had a disabled parking permit, and they also had a council-designated disabled parking spot outside their home, which the neighbor kept parking in. There had been a number of letters from the council regarding this, and a number of parking fines just served to annoy this chap even more. On the day of the story, I took the call that the patient had fallen and we went to the house. Sure enough, the neighbor was not only parked in the disabled spot, but he had parked a second car blocking access to the patient's driveway. I assessed the patient and suspected they had a broken hip, so we needed to go in. I sent my colleague round to the neighbor to ask them to move the cars, and when they came back, I was told the neighbor had told them to do one. No problem. Time to get the message home. I radioed through to our control center and asked for the fire service and police. We needed the fire service to help lift the guy and the police to do a little parking control. The fire service were the first to arrive, and I spoke to the crew commander to let them know what the situation was. A fireman went to the house to ask the neighbor to move the car and was told the same as my colleague. The message was relayed back and the watch commander just asked one question. Is the patient's life at risk? I knew exactly where this was going, and it was time our thoughtless neighbor got the message. My answer was, yes, there is equipment I need to get into the house and the driveway is blocked, preventing me from doing so. The watch commander told the fire truck driver to move the vehicles, and it was really satisfying to see both vehicles being pushed down the road by the fire service, and the look on the neighbor's face as he came out spitting and screaming was well worth seeing. His complaints to the police fell on deaf ears, as they were well aware of his history of obstruction, and my clinical assessment that the patient's life was in danger was more than enough justification for the vehicles to be moved. I doubt it made our patient's life any easier, and sadly they passed a few months later without leaving the hospital. But it really did bring a smile on their face as we wheeled them out. You have to be a special type of mean person to be willing to just park in a disabled spot if you're not disabled. Like, I don't care if it's the better spot or if it's closer to the door. If you're not disabled, don't take it. Like, what type of jerk are you? But it's even more insane to me that you would just not move your car when the paramedics are asking you to. Even if you have the wrong idea that you're justified to be parking in disabled spots all the time when you're not disabled, you'd think you'd at least be like human enough to move it out of the way when someone's life is in danger. Hey man, someone could die if you don't move your car. Too bad, I already parked it. Your parking job is more valuable than people's lives, bro? Mom takes HOA down from the inside. My neighborhood does not have an HOA, at least not anymore. When my parents first moved in, my older sibling, 2 years older than me and as little as a glowworm, there was an HOA. They took money from the neighborhood in exchange for services, and at first and for a while, my parents shrugged it off. The HOA shoveled the snow off the streets in the winter and dealt with trash collection, so it was worthwhile, right? No, the city controlled the snow plows and garbage trucks, not the HOA, but there was an illusion of effort. And besides, one summer they decided to contact a company to plant new trees all over, and the company was owned by the son of the HOA, and that was totally coincidental. The trees were the beginning of the end for the HOA. Why? Well, my grandma on my dad's side was visiting when they came around to plant the trees, and my grandma, who's a certified master gardener, stared through the windows of our house as the guys planting the trees just dropped the saplings on the grass, still with the roots inside the bag they came in, no holes dug, no holes cut, just a bagged sapling lying on the grass like a pathetic sad stick. The saplings laid there all night, and no one came back to actually do the job and plant them. My grandma mentioned offhand that those saplings were going to die unless they got into the soil. And something clicked in my mom's head. She was paying the HOA money, actual money, every month, while both she and my dad worked hard, taking care of 2 little kids, sending us to daycare and preschool, and arranging babysitters and feeding us. And the HOA was just going to pull this bullshit where instead of just doing what she's paying them to do, no way. So she showed up to the head of the HOA's house basically demanding that the trees get planted properly, like she's paying them to do. And the head of the HOA, so excited for someone actually caring about the neighborhood, made the second mistake. They asked my mom if she wanted to join the HOA. She agreed, the trees were planted, but most didn't make it as my grandma was right. First things first, my mom showed up to the next HOA meeting and there were like 5 people there. No wonder they asked my mom to join, as they desperately needed the people. So my mom looked at this collection of people who weren't even paying money to the HOA like the rest of the neighborhood. All the contractors the HOA called were close relatives of other members and weren't paid by the HOA. After all, they're family. So my mom started digging, and she spent pretty much a full summer taking down the HOA before she had to go back to teaching in the fall, with me carted along after her and my sibling old enough to be in school or daycare. She dug through years of paperwork detailing the HOA's financial situation, and she found something enlightening. The HOA didn't do anything. Well, they didn't do anything to benefit the community. Everything they claimed to do was covered by the individual homeowner or city itself. So they were collecting money from all of the neighborhood residents under false pretenses and weren't even actually supposed to be in the neighborhood. Their association zone was a whole different neighborhood. So what is a working mother of 2 small children to do while her husband is off at work and she's off for the summer? She goes door to door with pamphlets, me and my sibling as a stroller, as she weaves her way through the neighborhood blocks. Pamphlets explaining the situation and how to stop paying for services you'll never get. Pamphlets that are, of course, written in both English and Spanish to account for the high amount of Latino and Hispanic people in the neighborhood. And naturally, she got a lawyer and an accountant, and it put a major dent in her pocket, but if it meant the entire neighborhood wasn't exploited for money each month, it was worth every penny. Another HOA member helped her sift through the documents and data and pass out pamphlets and encourage people to show up to the meetings, but had to back out due to work-related reasons. My mom strolled up to the courthouse, flanked by lawyer and accountant, her kids safe at home with her husband, and had more than enough evidence to get the HOA out of the neighborhood, expose the fraudsters for the frauds they were, and make sure the HOA would never push their luck in our neighborhood again. It's been almost 19 years and no one's even tried making another HOA in our neighborhood. The fact that nobody caught on sooner is insane. Like, they were literally pocketing money from an entire neighborhood for years. That's nuts, bro. I've always hated the idea of an HOA. In Las Vegas, most neighborhoods just kind of tend to have one. But the idea that just like some random guy that lives 5 streets over is in charge of everything I do and I have to get approval before I do anything is nuts. And let's be honest, if they're in charge of like 3,000 houses taking $50 a month from each house, there's no way they're spending all that money on maintenance and whatnot. I'm sure a lot of HOAs are like this situation where they're saying they're doing all this stuff that's actually taken care of by the city and then hiring their like nieces and nephews and sons and brothers to do the work instead. Oh, yep, I hired my brother Dan to kill 900 tree saplings. This HOA association is just the opposite of Mr. Beast. They're like the anti-Team Trees. They're just going to kill as many saplings as humanly possible. New ownership takes over and guy goes on vacation for 2 years due to stupid new rules. A family friend was working at the same company since he was 26 up to when he was 64, and when the below started, he really got a good deal. Part of the problem was laws in the country increasing the retirement age from 62 to 65 was when he was in his early to mid 50s. Then again, from 65 to 67 when he was 62, 63. The old owners were a family and ran the business with benefits to the employees. From everything I've heard, I think they were giving an extra vacation week after every 6 years at the company. So on top of the standard 4 weeks, he had an extra 6 weeks at the time of the events. And also, people had access to 2 weeks of working from home when the job allowed them to, or an extra week off for those that couldn't use it. So he was getting 11 weeks off each year. As a bonus, the family owners were allowing people above 55 to use their vacation time as they desired. All at once, with 2 weeks notice, or segmented, or just don't use it and pile it up for when the retirement came. Another issue we have at our country is that when you submit retirement paperwork, they take ages. So it's often the case it may take 2 years to calculate what to pay you and start paying you. Of course, they give you back pay, but it's still a problem for the period of delay, and they calculate that you're only getting the minimum amount. The guy already had 44 years of experience and a bit more ahead of him as an engineer, and a well-paid one, which meant a great retirement amount. To combat this, the owners allowed for people to gather up their weeks of time off, and at the end of it, take 20 to 30 weeks off while submitting their retirement paperwork, so the money would be being paid to them and it would last longer into the calculation period. Of course, some didn't use it, but many did. So the company gets sold because the owner saw some writing on the wall that their profiting wouldn't last more than 6-7 years and wanted out, and it was due to old age as well. New ownership was part of some Coca-Cola subsidiary and takes over and starts removing all previous rules. At the guy's position, there were 3 of them. Him, a second colleague, and a third. They push out the second one, and the third one has a heart attack a week later. They also go and dock his pay by 15% because he's making too much for a simple engineer. The 3 of them held a patent for the machinery used on something specific. A second one knew how to make the machinery, and the third one on the process of the production of the small but significant part. The old owner had allowed them to put the patents on them when they invented a new one, which was 30% cheaper and 75% faster. and they had used it since years ago. Suddenly, he's alone on the position at 64, and the company hires 6 people for him to train. And at the same time, they give him to the end of the year for all the piled up vacation time to be claimed. Notice the wording claimed, not used. So the guy was using in between 1 and 5 weeks for the past decade, so he had gathered up 87 weeks of time off. But they hadn't looked at specific cases, apparently. So they get him, the 6 new people, to train, and they tell him he needs to have them trained in 6 months. And he still had 2 to 2.5 years until retirement. So he just goes and takes 87 weeks of vacation time with 3 hours notice on a Friday evening, starting the upcoming Monday, still on advance, and notifying is required, but no distance is specified. They don't pay attention on it until next Thursday when the CEO notices 6 people sitting around all day and no one training them. Then the phone calls start, then emails, then letters get added to the mix, and then home visits by low-ranking secretaries to deliver the letters, then management visiting his home, and by week 7 the CEO visited 3 times, but the door hasn't been opened once. His mother-in-law lives across the street, and him and his wife are taking care of her, so most of the time they're over there and can see everyone visiting their house. The production is actually running on itself, but no upkeep is being done on the critical part. In week 11, it says that 1 line out of the 2 breaks down. They start visiting his house 3-4 times a day. 2 weeks later, the second line breaks down, and he obviously has lots of friends inside and is getting constant updates, and at that point, they only have 4 weeks of backstock to keep the rest of the production running. It's December, right before Christmas, and he goes in during week 13 and says he needs to take some things from his locker, and the CEO starts yelling at him, saying, "You're stopping your time off right now, you're coming back to work to fix everything." He offers to come back for 3 days under an agreement that the entire week will be returned to himself for time off. The CEO agrees and also tries to push him for training, but he doesn't budge and only fixes things up and goes on vacation again. By Saturday, everything's fixed and he leaves, a couple of basic instructions on what needs greasing every week, and he's off again. Few weeks pass, the new year has come around and the line is broken again, and he gets called back and the CEO pretends like the previous deal will be used again. He goes in for 2 days, fixes everything, and explains a couple more things to the team of 6, who by now have other duties, and then when he is about to leave, the CEO says, "Tomorrow, 8 a.m. The guy says what, and the CEO explains that you could claim your time off by the end of last year, and you just ended your claim time off, so you're losing the remaining 69 weeks. The guy is furious and just goes and reports the company to workers' rights. They are actually dumbfounded by the time off amount he's allotted, and the lady serving him calls her colleagues to listen in. They laugh their butts off by his story, and they actually issue a verdict the next day. It usually takes weeks, but apparently they had too much fun with this one, and he is to get all of his time off under previous rules for the time accrued before the rules changed. So he has his 69 weeks, should be 70 due to him getting the one he worked on renewed by their deal, but he lost that one. And he also has 6 weeks from the new year. So he goes in with the verdict and gives it personally to a fuming CEO, and according to the guy, steam's coming out of his ears. The CEO accepts unwillingly the deal with the guy coming in for 3 days every 5 weeks off. If he's needed during this time, tough luck, they should work to produce backstock. A full year goes by that way. The guy is 66 at this point, and he's been training the 6 slowly every 5 weeks, and he's on his last visit before he takes the last 5 weeks off. The CEO goes to him and delivers personally the firing notice for the first day he'll be back. He plays shocked and leaves for another 5 weeks. This one is a problem because if you apply for retirement even half a year early, you're losing a significantly more than just the small period, and he has about 10 months of him ahead of him for retirement. His last 5 weeks expire and he goes in to gather his stuff, and only a coffee cup was remaining. He knew this was coming and had taken everything over time. He gets an extremely big payout for firing with no cause, and the next day he sends a cease and desist letter to the company for the use of the 3 patent. He talked with the fired guy who had agreed with his revenge plan, and he had also talked with the widow of the now dead friend and colleague as well, and they had both of them on board. He had been supporting the widow, but he didn't say anything to anyone, and I found out recently from the other guy about it. So now the company has to stop using those machines and the method with 0 notice, and all the competitors have found and built and patented their own versions of the same, and if they don't find a solution, it's going to cost 40% more to take out the double time to produce the same part in the procedure of production. So they would need to double the lines, and if they go and use the old method while they look for a new one. After just 3 weeks of looking to license the method of one of the competitors and not getting anywhere, stock being extremely low by that point, they struck a deal with the guy. He will be an external contractor who obviously keeps the patents to his name, and he will be doing maintenance on his own and will be paid by the hour what he was previously making in a full day, and he will be on call for maintenance while having one person there at all times for upkeep. He went and stole all the 6 people he trained and hired them in his new company and put them to work at the factory again with pay double what they were receiving. He fully trained them quickly and he was now getting paid a crap ton. The CEO was fired for stopping production. The deal was struck mere hours before backstock ended, and he also cost the company a ton of money by firing the guy. At the funeral of the old owner, many old employees met up and told their different stories, and apparently there were 3 more similar cases with patent holders because the old owner treated his team very well, but he apparently was the only one to string them on for almost 2 years by being out on vacation and getting paid. All of them had a great laugh, including the widow of the owner and his sister, who were the other 2 partners in the factory before it got sold. Bro, that is some next level revenge, but I'm always shocked by how CEOs are always trying to take on the oldest, most experienced guy there. Like, yeah, he definitely doesn't have a lot more experience at this than you. You're gonna do great going up against him. It's not like the guy that's been doing this for his entire life would have more experience on how to deal with this stuff. Believe it or not, old people, yes, they might be boomers, but they have seen more stuff than us. Chances are they know how to, secretly be doing things to make the company have to pay them for their 2 years off. What a great plan, though, man. You know that was some sweet, sweet vacation time. He's just chilling, playing bingo at the retirement hall with all the grandmas. So what do? Oh, I'm actually taking vacation time, getting full salary while just goofing off. It's pretty sick. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I'd appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. And of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. And if you want more videos, I have a playlist of Reddit videos on the channel. Feel free to check that out. But yeah, on that note, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.